What's good, everybody? Welcome back to Universal Teas. It's the People's Podcast with your girl Toya, and this episode is called "It's Me Season Baby." Okay, and I actually came up with this episode last night. I wrote the show notes last night, and like I said, when I be recording episodes, sometimes I don't know until the day before, the day of. But I called this episode "It's Me Season Baby" because I've really been feeling like that, right? The last couple of years have definitely been like a transition period for me. And I'm just now starting to step into a season where, although everything isn't perfect, I'm still feeling like it's still me season. I still feel like I still have to do what's best for me. I still feel like I'm first, right? I still feel like it's time for me to start putting myself before any and everybody, right? And this decision really got solidified when I was sitting in bed and I was thinking like, yo, you're single, you don't have kids, you have everything is your own, right? You have all your own shit. You don't have a whole lot of outside of you responsibilities outside of my career, right? And I was sitting there like, why did I waste so much time being sad and being hurt and being in my feelings and trying to please people and worrying about what other people are doing and how other people are moving and just letting everything on the outside world affect me, right? And so I've come to a space where, like I said, everything isn't perfect. Things still are going quote unquote wrong, but I feel like at the end of the day, that doesn't take away from my goals, that doesn't take away from my purpose, that doesn't take away from my reality, and it doesn't take away from the things that I have to accomplish, right? So it's me season right now, and I don't know if y'all seen the meme, or the video that Issa Rae posted, and she was basically saying that same thing, right? Like, it's me season. I feel so sorry for people who don't rock with me, and, you know, it's gonna be a lot of people that's uncomfortable with things that I do, in the near future. A lot of things that I say may make people feel away, but that's okay because that's what me season is about, right? As long as I'm happy, as long as I'm satisfied, as long as I'm fulfilled, right? As long as I'm not feeling anxious and depressed, it's me season, okay? And I feel like oftentimes when people think me season, for those of us who are just stepping into it, for those of us that it is new for, me season can kind of seem selfish. And for some of us who are those people pleasers, who are those people that always extend a hand to help outside of ourselves, me season can feel a little selfish, and we feel bad about that, right? But I've decided to not make me season a bad thing. We have to take away that negative connotation with being selfish. Selfish is a season that all of us should have, right? Especially those of us like myself who are single, who don't have kids, who live alone, right? Who lead these very independent and individual lives. It's you season, right? So instead of taking this negative approach to me season or being selfish, I really feel like me season is a graduation. Right? Me season is a graduation, and I don't know about y'all, but I'm happy to be in the graduating class of 2022 when it comes to me season, because it feels great, right? Stepping out of a place where you always care what other people think, where you're always considering other people's actions, where you're always considering other people's feelings. It's a graduation, right? To get past that depression, to get past anxiety, to get past caring about everything on the outside world is really a great and freeing space to be. And like I say almost every week, I'm on a journey to freedom, right? I'm on a journey to living my best life and being my best self. And so I feel like this being my me season is go time, right? I'm starting to get into a headspace, and maybe some of you who have been operating in people pleasing as well, you get into a headspace where you realize that everything outside of you, everything that doesn't make you happy, everything that doesn't please you is minuscule, right? It's small. It doesn't matter. You start to accept, or I'm starting to accept, that things that aren't for me are leaving me. Things that are for me are right here with me, right? Some things that might not be for me right now will return to me in the future. The way that I started to reflect on this idea of things returning to you, right? If things are for you, they're for you. Nothing in the universe or the world is going to stop that. So I thought about the fact that I have friendships, right, at this age, which I'll be 28 next week. But I have friendships that ended when maybe I was in middle school, right? And it was devastating. Right? Who wants to lose their best friend at 12, at 13, right? But some of those same people are my friends now today, and in our adulthood, we've cultivated a healthy and sustainable relationship that has nothing to do when we were 12 and 13 years old. So if things are for you, you have to trust and believe and operate in that, right? Operate in the fact that what's for you is for you. Another thing that I feel like I've started to discover in this me season, or this season that is myself, is that we have to learn how to lose people with grace. Okay? We have to learn how to lose people with grace. And what I mean by that is still that concept of understanding that what is for you is for you, right? I'm in a place where not only have I lost people, and I don't mean by death, right? Just people are falling off, and that's okay, right? And I'm getting to a place where I'm starting to accept and understand that that's okay. Nothing lasts forever. People come and go. People leaving and entering your life should never take away from how you feel about you, right? Even if it's your fault. That's a note that I put. Like, actually, losing people is losing people with grace is something that you have to learn how to do in your me season, even if it's your fault, right? And a part of your me season has to be self-accountability, if that's a word. Self-accountability. Either way, a part of your me season has to be holding yourself accountable that sometimes people leave your life and it's your fault. But that still doesn't make it okay for you to wallow in that guilt, to wallow in that self-pity. You have to forgive yourself for whatever it is that happened, and you have to move on, right? And understand that situation doesn't take away from me season. That situation can add to your me season if it's a point of reflection. Okay? So me season isn't always meaning that you're just doing it. You have all these people around you that love you. Sometimes me season can be very ugly. Sometimes me season may be lonely. Sometimes me season is just you, aka it's just me. And it's the time where you're in the pit and you're figuring out what's going to be next and what's going to come from this and what's going to be your next steps, right? Reflecting on who you are, looking at the mistakes that you've made. Me season isn't always a party. It's not always having friends around, people around in your corner, right? Sometimes me season is lonely, and you have to be okay with that and understand that me season is a springboard, right? Sometimes we look at our mistakes, we get in these dark places, we get in these spaces of solitude, and we feel like we've lost, we're losing, or we're struggling, right? But in this part of your me season, you're using these mistakes as springboards, because every time you're making a mistake, every time you're in a dark place, you're learning, right? So take yourself out of the emotion. Feel how you feel, but after a while, you need to remove yourself from the emotion of that solitude, right? And think about what it's teaching you. Because in that pit, in that dark space is where you're planning, where you're growing, where you're figuring out what's next, where you're figuring out what the I was about to say flourishing, y'all. That's not a word. Where the part of your me season that you're flourishing in is going to be grown, right? That's where you're planting the seeds for who your best self is going to be when your me season is in front of the whole world, right? Let people go with grace. Don't hold on to anything or anyone that is not for you. And sometimes that is hard. Trust me. Because we get so used to certain things, certain people, certain routines, certain jobs, and it's safe and it's comfortable. But we know, and you know deep down in yourself, in the back of your mind, that it's probably not the best. You probably know it's not going to last. Right? But you still try to convince yourself that you should be there in those spaces. So I really want you all to understand that coming into your me season is accepting that everything and everybody isn't for you. And you have to be able to let some things go. Okay? Another huge part of my me season is kind of what we mentioned in our last episode, or was that I don't think that was our last episode. But whichever episode when we talked about not pleasing the crowd, a large part of your me season is being okay with people not agreeing with you. A large part of me season is being okay with people not understanding why you're doing the things you do. A large part of me season is not giving a fuck what people think, how they react, how they're gonna, what they're gonna say to other people about it, the things that they're gonna share. Me season is me. It's me doing what I do, how I do it all the time, right? So anytime we're talking about me season, you got to know and understand that you're going to upset some folks, right? Because me season means you might be switching up. Me is going to look different healed than it was hurt. Okay, me is gonna look different happy than I was depressed, right? Me is gonna look different self-loving versus when I was heartbroken. And some people don't know what that looks and feels like. They don't know how to approach you when you're happy. They can only resonate with the sad part of you. They don't know the part of you that's graduated from being full of drama, right? It's foreign. And it's okay in your me season to let things, situations, people, partnerships go without an announcement. That goes back to the episode where we talked about it's a no. Sometimes stepping into your me season is just control, alt deleting people with no warning. Okay? And that's okay. I've had to do that. Right? There's people who are going to go probably on social media, try to find me, and it's going to say add friend, and they're going to be like, wow. And I'm going to be like, well. Okay? So me season is all about you. You have to get selfish and you have to be okay with it. Just like when people did things that you didn't like. Just like when people hurt you. Just like when people betrayed you. Just like when people made you feel crazy and they were like, well, she'll be all right. It's time for you to say that same thing in your me season. Me, right now, it's going to be a whole lot of they'll be all right. As long as you're not being spiteful, as long as you're not being malicious. But if it's all about the growth, right? If it's all about you coming to a new level and elevating into somebody else, that is okay, right? Let me season be all about you and stop explaining shit to people, right? All you can say is I've grown, I've changed, right? Okay? Another lesson or point that I thought about when I was really sitting, reflecting, and thinking about me season is the idea that just because we learn a lesson, because coming into me season, getting ready for the graduation into me season, we make mistakes. Some people betray us. We get hurt, but we're learning lessons, right? And I know y'all have probably heard, if God is trying to show you something and you don't pay attention, he's gonna make that thing louder. He's gonna make that thing hurt more. He's gonna make that thing more difficult, more complicated until you decide to let go, right? But when you finally learn that lesson, just because you learned a lesson does not mean you have to go back and retake the same test. I'll say that again. Just because you finally learned a lesson, you finally got over that person, you finally left that job, you finally got rid of that friendship, you finally stopped giving a fuck what people think, right? Just because you learned a lesson does not mean you go back and retake the same test. Like, okay, I learned a lesson, let me go redo that test again. No, right? That's a part of letting people go with grace. Letting things go with grace. Like, damn, I maybe shouldn't have done that, right? And they would still be my friend. They left. It's okay. I just know not to operate that way in friendships again, right? It doesn't mean you got to go back to the person. It doesn't mean you have to let somebody back. Now, if you so choose to and you think that's really what's best for you after your graduation into me season, then do that. But really reflect on if it's necessary, right? We shouldn't have to chase. We shouldn't have to force. We shouldn't have to go after anything, right? Because me season is all about growth, evolution, and change. Okay? You can't heal in the same places where you were hurt. That's not how things operate, okay? So when you're operating in your me season, understand that just because you finally learned a lesson doesn't mean you have to go back and retake that same test, because now the tests for you are going to be greater. The tests for you are going to align with where you graduated, right? For example, when you graduate from 8th grade, you're not still taking 8th grade tests in high school. Now your tests are matching the elevation that you've had, right? Just because you graduated high school, if you go to college, those tests are not the same tests you took in high school, right? When I graduated from undergrad and went to grad school, those tests that I took in grad school weren't the same, as the tests that I took in undergrad. As you grow, your tests grow. Okay, because you've now built up this strength and this stamina to learn more, to do more, to study more, to be more, to withhold or withstand more, right? So every level of evolution requires a new test. You can't grow in high school if you're still taking tests that you took in 6th grade. That's not how growth and evolution of the mind works. You have to align yourself with tests. You have to be okay with taking tests. And just like the test that you took in 5th grade was difficult, the test that you take your sophomore year of high school is going to be different and difficult because they're on 2 different levels. But you know, right? You equipped yourself with those things back in 6th grade when you took that test that you now know and need to withstand. And I keep saying withstand, that you now know and you're able to, and that you're equipped with to finish the test that you want to take in high school, right? Me Season is all about that. Because if you are taking a test and you're not passing a test, you have to reflect like, maybe I need to study different. Maybe I need to be in a different space. Maybe I need to be in a different place. We sometimes disassociate ourselves with the fact that we are a part of the universe just like everything, right? I was sitting and thinking about growth as I was getting ready for this episode. I was thinking about growth. And so sometimes we feel like we're not growing because we don't really see the growth day by day. And I was just thinking about us as humans, right? Growth is sometimes slow, but you don't just sit there. Your parent doesn't just sit and watch their baby grow, right? You would probably feel like your child is never growing. I'm about to be 28 years old. If my mom sat and watched me grow for the past 28 years, she would probably not accomplish anything. We have to understand that growth is gradual, right? And you have to understand that if you're always doing the work, planting the seeds, being you, you're going to grow, okay? No matter what situations happen, you're going to grow. And that's just what happens in the universe. It happens with humans. It happens with hair. It happens with pets, kids. It happens with the grass and the leaves on the trees. So we are really a part of this universe. So I don't understand why people, and I'm speaking for myself, I'm telling my business, why sometimes we kind of forget that. And we operate as if we're just some exclusive being to everything else in the world that God created, right? Just like he has plants and trees grow, so do humans. That doesn't happen over time. Just like it rains and then the sun comes back out, we're a part of that same universe where that happens. So you have to understand that when you graduate into your me season, you should be happy. Okay? You should be satisfied, right? And then once you get to that graduation, you see all that growth. Okay? Just like anything in life, we need to understand that life and growth is gradual, and you will get there if you do the work. You will get there if you don't give up. Now, if you stop, you're never going to make it. You're never going to make it to that happiness if you sit and chill in your sadness. You're never going to experience that growth and happiness if you don't allow yourself to be comfortable with the growing pains of your life, right? So what you have to understand in your me season is that you can't give a fuck what people think. You have to understand that things, people, situations, emotions come and go. Okay? And in your me season, you have to understand that it is okay to disappoint people as long as you give up the idea that you have to disappoint and give up pieces of yourselves to be yourself. Okay? Me season is a graduation, baby. And if you're not feeling like you're ready for that graduation, it's okay. Just like in college and in school, we take these series of tests. Me season is the same thing. Me season is the culmination of all those tests, right? It's your winning season. Okay, so I don't know if it's because my birthday next week. I don't know if it's just because I'm moving more, I'm doing more, I'm seeing more, I'm thinking more. But I'm so comfortable with my me season because I'm about to start disappointing a lot of people. And not because I'm not being great, but because I'm not being who they need me to be all the time. My me season is personal. It has nothing to do with you. I seen a post a little while ago that said, and when I start popping out, it's not to stun on anybody, but it's an apology to myself. Okay? It's an apology to myself when I was depressed. It's an apology to myself when I was confused and anxious and crying and feeling like I wasn't enough. When I pop out, it's personal. So you either coming or you not. And if you're not coming, that's okay. So we have to understand that in our me season, it's about us. It's not about the people. Stop letting everything that's happening around you affect how you move. Okay? So this is a really short episode because I didn't have many of my friends in the chat, but that's okay. But this episode is called Me Season. And what I want you all to really think about is, what does me season look like for you? Are you ready to graduate? Don't have me be alone in the graduation of the me season class of 2022 because I'm ready. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up. And, before we go, So my birthday is next week, and I won't be live, but I do have a challenge for all my Me Season graduates. Okay, so if you are a graduate of Me Season class of 2022, I have a challenge for you all, right? So probably tomorrow or Wednesday. Wait, tomorrow is Wednesday. Tomorrow or Thursday. I'll be dropping what that challenge is on social media. So if you are ready to graduate into Me Season like me, I'm going to drop what that challenge is going to look like. And I want to see everybody just doing this challenge for my birthday, because I won't be live, but the Me Season challenge will be live on my birthday next week, March 1st. All right. So thank you all for tuning in. This is episode 7 of season 2 called It's Me Season Baby. And I really appreciate you all. If you did enjoy me in the chat, make sure you're here in the space and in the place. I go live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. on Facebook. And I will see you all next week. Bye.